All right, good morning. The calendar has turned to December. The 49ers have been losing football games. They've got 5 to play. They're 2 out of first place. Playoff chances are looking slim, but even when a team is winning, there's always a consideration for the future because these NFL seasons do not happen in vacuums. Sometimes a player that gets some run late in what could be a lost season is a guy who could become a hero because of the experience that he gained in that lost season during the following year. I think we've actually seen that happen many, many times with the 49ers. Starting in 2017, when they put together that 5-game stretch at the end of the season, things were much more dire then. They were 1-10, and they went 5-0 after Jimmy Garoppolo showed up. And the foundation that the 49ers built at the end of 2017 helped lead them to the Super Bowl in 2019 after everybody got healed up. And the gist of the situation right now is that the 49ers need to rest, they need to recover, and then they need to reload over the course of this offseason. They entered this season with the best roster in football. That roster quickly eroded. Before a snap had even been taken, Christian McCaffrey was hurt, and then he was placed on IR after week 1. So I think losing Christian McCaffrey downgraded that from the best roster in football to a very good one. They won their share of games early on. They also blew their share of games. I don't think anybody really has had their fastball this season for the entirety of it. Somebody like Fred Warner opened up in Defensive Player of the Year status, but broke his ankle in week 4, has been playing on it, but hasn't been the player that he was prior to that. Anyway, the gist of this is that the 49ers probably need to shift even more focus to the retooling effort right now, with McCaffrey likely done for the season, with Jordan Mason likely done for the season. That is a high ankle sprain. And with that, I have 5 prospects to talk about, 5 prospects to closely watch over the course of December, because the football that we see out of these guys during the opportunity that they now have in front of them because of some of these injuries could go a long way in determining what the 49ers do at their respective positions in the future. First guy is Isaac Guerendo, the running back, the rookie running back out of Louisville, was with Wisconsin before then. The crazy thing about Isaac Guerendo is that he had only 1 career start at the running back position. That was the last game of his college career, a bowl game against USC for Louisville. He entered college at Wisconsin as a wide receiver. So he's got good hands, he's got route running ability, but he was converted to a running back, and now obviously he's a running back, but the 49ers like these versatile backs who can catch passes. The touchdown that Guerendo scored against Buffalo was actually a run, but he had to use his receiving skills to get it because it was a swing pass that went backwards from Brock Purdy. Those are the types of plays that Isaac Guerendo can really excel at. The 49ers have not run enough screen passes this year. Brock Purdy has thrown the fewest screen passes of any QB in the NFL. Patrick Mahomes has thrown the most. I think this is where Kyle Shanahan has not been at his best in this 2024 season. I think that he has not schemed in the layup short passing game nearly enough, and I think that the loss of Christian McCaffrey screwed the 49ers up. I think Brandon Ayuk's holdout screwed the 49ers up. I just think that this whole season has gone askew for the 49ers, and you could see it most in the stylistic identity of their offense. They're not throwing short as much as they should be throwing short. They're not setting that up for the play action intermediate strikes the way that they normally do. They're not leveraging the run game the way that they normally do. Exhibit A was in Buffalo, but Exhibit A of a good running attack was actually in Buffalo as well. Take a look at this efficiency on the ground for the 49ers. It's this column that my cursor is circling over on the right that is the important one. You want to be in the green, and it's a percentile score. So the further the rectangle is filled by green coloring, the better you are than the majority, or than the pool of running backs who have performed in the data set, which is taking data from all running backs over the past several years. So Christian McCaffrey's performance was an elite one, and then he got hurt. But he was averaging 7.6 yards per rush. He was at 0.39 EPA per rush. So he's adding almost a half a point of expected value every single time he ran the ball, which is insane. Even Jordan Mason's performance was well above average, and that was 0.1 EPA per rush. But look where Guerendo was in very limited carries, but in very limited carries, he has been the most efficient 49ers running back so far. 0.27 EPA per rush. With the touchdown, that obviously helped boost the score for Guerendo, 4.8 per carry. Isaac Guerendo is now going to be the 49ers starting running back. McCaffrey's on the shelf. Jordan Mason's on the shelf. The 49ers are going to even have to add a running back because I don't think they're going to use Deebo Samuel as a backup to close this season. Maybe a couple carries, but I don't think he's going to get a heavy workload like he did back in 2021. So when you look at the room right here, it's Guerendo and nobody else on the 53-man roster because McCaffrey and Mason will be on IR. So Patrick Taylor Jr. is going to get a promotion. He's going to head up to the 53-man roster, but they always like to enter with 3 available backs. They could bring up another guy in the practice squad. They can sign somebody there and then call him up as a temporary elevation during the game, or they can just sign somebody to the 53-man roster outright. Right now, the 49ers have 15 practice squad spots full, so there's 1 spot left there, and they have 50 53-man roster spots full. So they're going to add 4 players to the building tomorrow. It's Tuesday. It's Players' Day off, laundry day, as we call it in the NFL. And tomorrow they're going to add 4 players before practice starts, and they're going to make those injured reserve designations official for McCaffrey and Jordan Mason. But Isaac Guerendo now has a chance to get a full load of carries. Remember, only 1 start in his career, and that came in college at running back, is a chance to get a full load of carries, and that means a full load of vision. And by that, I mean a full sample in his head of, okay, this is how the NFL works. This is where holes open up. This is the speed of the game. Because you've seen Guerendo get more comfortable over time, but he's only had such a limited amount of carries over the course of this season that the growth in comfort has not been able to happen all too quickly. But I think the Isaac Guerendo that we saw early in this season versus the Isaac Guerendo that we've seen lately is seeing the whole field a whole lot better, just because he has gotten that amount of carries that has allowed him to collect some data on, okay, this is how the NFL moves. This is how I have to adjust. Christian McCaffrey at Stanford, I covered him back at Stanford. He was explosive as a freshman in 2014, but he wasn't a Heisman Trophy finalist in 2014. By 2015, he was breaking every single record in the book. And yes, he got a little bit more explosive. He got a little stronger from year 1 to year 2. But the biggest difference was that he got acclimated to the speed of the game in his first season. And then he learned how to slow down sometimes. He wasn't always going at full speed. He learned how to leverage his blocks, follow his blockers, be patient, wait for that little sliver to open up. And that's all a feel thing. And the only way that you develop in a feel context is if you actually get to play in that context. Because you can watch it on tape over and over and over again. But when the bullets start flying, when you're out there on that field and you've got to make a split-second decision of when to cut, when to slow down, that's something that your body has to just understand through muscle memory. It's not something that you can calculate. It's not something you could watch on film and then apply just by watching it on film. You've got to do it. And Isaac Guerendo is going to have that opportunity now. He scored similarly in athletic profile tests as Saquon Barkley coming out of college. Isaac Guerendo is one of the most physically gifted running backs that the NFL's ever seen. I'm not exaggerating there. 4'3", 40, 220 pounds. That's a combination that is extremely, extremely rare. But the reason that he dropped to the 4th round is because the lack of experience that I'm talking about. Nobody was really sure if he would be able to adapt and play in the way that I just talked about. Learn how to follow blocks, be patient. It's an art. Frank Gore, one of the great running backs in NFL history, was not one of the best athletes. So just because you're a great athlete doesn't mean that it's going to correlate into being a really good running back. But the 49ers felt that it was worth a 4th-round pick as a flyer on the immense athletic upside that Isaac Guerendo brings to the table. So now he's going to have to learn how to do Frank Gore-like stuff. He's going to have to learn how to follow his blocks, or maybe we should say Christian McCaffrey-like stuff. Even Elijah Mitchell-like stuff. Remember, Mitchell as a rookie really knew how to play the running back position. Well, that's Isaac Guerendo's job now for the 49ers over the next month. That's one prospect to watch. Second prospect to watch for the 49ers is going to be Ben Bartch, offensive lineman. Let's open up the roster again and go to that O-line room. So you could see injuries to Trent Williams and Aaron Banks. Banks in the concussion protocol. I don't know when he's going to be out of it, but as you also can see, I've got Ben Bartch listed as the direct backup behind Aaron Banks. Bartch is an intriguing prospect because he played all of the interior line positions for Jacksonville and actually was not a bad player for the Jaguars. But then he suffered one of the most gruesome injuries you can think of. He dislocated his knee in 2022. So when he dislocated his knee in 2022, there was obviously a long recovery ahead. He did make it back to Jacksonville's practice squad in the 2023 season. And the 49ers saw this prospect and they said, well, we need more offensive line depth. Maybe he can be an emergency backup for us this year if we bring him in, because we're thin on the interior. Last year, the 49ers had big-time issues on the interior. But maybe if we bet on this guy right now, he can learn our system. And as he physically strengthens following the dislocated knee, he can be somebody for us. So that's the flyer the 49ers took. They poached Ben Bartch off of Jacksonville's practice squad last season. He did see some mop-up duty, I think, again in the game against the Ravens. We saw Ben Bartch for a few snaps at the end of the game. This season, the 49ers are dealing with the injuries on the left side of their offensive line to Trent Williams and to Aaron Banks in the concussion protocol. So Bartch got his first start with the 49ers at the left guard position that he last played in Jacksonville, and he got that start against Buffalo. What we saw out of Ben Bartch was eminently impressive. Some of the film guys are freaking out right now. They're freaking out like the Buffalo fans in the snow. By the way, just rewind to this game on Sunday. You know, now that we're a little bit apart from it, and I know fans hopefully aren't as emotionally hurt by a loss that you probably could have seen coming. If you watched the channel, you probably knew it was coming. I predicted early in the week that Buffalo was going to win that game. But anyway, it was an awesome vibe in that stadium. Congratulations to the Bills. They won their AFC's championship. But everybody was having so much fun despite the fact that it was freezing and their seats were buried in 4 feet of snow. Everybody shows up there with a smile on their face and they're shoveling out their seat from under the 4 feet of snow. And then they're, watching the game and they're just having a snowball fight all game. People are just throwing snowballs everywhere. It was an absolute spectacle to watch that game. And it was a privilege to be able to watch that game live in Buffalo. It was a privilege to be able to watch Ben Bartch while Christian McCaffrey was on his rampage early in the game and extending even beyond that, because you see how well Jordan Mason ran and you see how well Isaac Guerendo ran. The efficiency was great here. Ben Bartch was road grading. I mean, he was, this might have been an upgrade for the 49ers in terms of run blocking. I don't think that Aaron Banks has had the best year for the 49ers. And Ben Bartch was sealing holes, getting upfield, getting to the second level when he needed to. The knee looks fully healthy for Bartch. The 49ers ask difficult things out of their linemen. The interior linemen have to be able to get up to the second level beyond the line of scrimmage. Some of these reach blocks, I talked about it with Jake Brendel. These are such important blocks. And sometimes you have to do it with lateral movement because the way you seal off a linebacker or any defender in that case is going to be dependent on how quickly you move to avoid a holding penalty. So it's not an easy job, and Ben Bartch excelled at it. In fact, the 49ers' 2 highest graded run blockers in this game were Ben Bartch and Dominic Pooney, the rookie right guard who bounced back from his 3-penalty performance against Green Bay. Pooney's been really, really damn good this year. 49ers certainly happy to have him. Do the 49ers have a potential pairing of the future at the guard positions between Pooney, who obviously is on track to keep that job for a long time, and maybe Ben Bartch? Bartch is going to be a free agent after this season, but so is Aaron Banks. I think Aaron Banks, just because of pedigree, because he has been a starter for 3 years for the 49ers, you might expect Aaron Banks to get paid a nice chunk of change somewhere. The offensive line market is undersaturated. So players get overpaid a lot. Like you saw the Rams pay for a couple of guards this offseason. They paid like $15 million a year for these guys. The 49ers aren't going to be paying $15 million a year for a guard. That's just not how they roll. So is Ben Bartch going to be a suitable answer, potential upgrade for the 49ers? I don't know. But what I saw on tape in Buffalo was extremely intriguing. And we'll see if Ben Bartch continues to get opportunities for the 49ers here over December, because he is definitely a prospect to watch as they retool this team. Next one is right next to Bartch, or was right next to him in the game on Sunday, and that is Jaylen Moore. Moore is also on an expiring contract. He was a 5th-round draft pick of the 49ers in 2021. Aaron Banks was a 2nd-round draft pick in 2021. Moore has been a backup tackle, swing tackle over the years. He's filled in at left and at right tackle. He actually got benched as a rookie in 2021 when he was ahead of Colton McKivitz on the depth chart. He filled in for Mike McGlinchey in Jacksonville, gave up a sack, and the 49ers couldn't have it. Or it didn't give up a sack. Jimmy Garoppolo actually threw a touchdown on the play, but Moore gave up the quarterback hit on Garoppolo's throw, and the 49ers said, Jimmy's getting beaten up too much already with this right tackle situation. Moore got benched that year, and the 49ers essentially determined that this guy is better at the left tackle position than he is at the right tackle position. So he's become the backup 49ers left tackle. And yes, he can play right tackle if need be. Colton McKivitz has been available all season. And Moore has filled in really, really nicely for Trent Williams over the past 2 games. Against Green Bay, the 49ers had a bad performance across the offensive line, except for Jaylen Moore at left tackle. Moore was one of the whole line, I thought, played well in Buffalo. The run blocking was really, really good against the Bills. I wrote about it, by the way, up on the San Francisco Standard. You can check it out. The offensive line got a nice, good grade for the 49ers. We talked about the tragedy that's inflicted the team, multiple tragedies, and then talked about the game and now the 49ers can build off of it. So make sure you go ahead and check that out on the Standard. But Moore was one of the bright spots for the 49ers, and he's been a bright spot for 2 games. And Trent Williams obviously dealing with a lot right now. On top of the ankle, the personal tragedy, the loss of his twins. 49ers aren't going to rush Trent Williams back. I do think he wants to get back. That's what Kyle Shanahan said yesterday. But until he is back and 100% here in December, they can collect more intel on Jaylen Moore, who is playing the best football of his career at this point. And I think that it's intriguing. I think the 49ers believe it's intriguing. He's on an expiring contract, and they're not necessarily looking for a starter at one of the tackle positions next year, but any team that wants to withstand these marathons, and 49ers fans should know about injuries more than anybody, any team that wants to withstand these marathons absolutely needs depth at OL 6, OL 7, maybe even offensive lineman 8. And I think Jaylen Moore actually might be a legitimate piece for the 49ers in that regard as they look to build. And if he continues playing this well, maybe he's eventually able to take over a tackle spot. Although I love the fact that Jaylen Moore can also play guard. This is a versatile player for the 49ers. He's quick. He fits a lot of what they want physically. And we'll see if that continues for the 49ers here over December. All right. This show is brought to you by Public Rec. Public Rec, they sent me some pants, and I've glowed about those pants here over the past couple weeks. I'm going to glow about them again. They feel cozy. It feels like you're just chilling at home, yet they look businesslike. They look professional. So whether you're closing deals in the boardroom, navigating holiday travel, or mingling at company parties, the Game Changers from Public Rec will keep you looking sharp and feeling great. Public Rec is the ultimate men's clothing brand for blending comfort and style seamlessly. Trust me, you will not be disappointed. Stop suffering in regular pants and give the gift of comfort this holiday season. For a limited time only, our listeners get 20% off when you use the code Lombardi at checkout. That's 20% off with the code Lombardi at publicrec.com. After you purchase, they'll ask you where you heard about them. Please support our show and tell them we sent you. Give yourself or someone you love the gift of comfort this holiday. Public rec. And now we continue with the 5 49ers prospects to watch closely. Look at that. I didn't even put prospects in there. It needed to be plural. Typo on my part. It has now been rectified. So Isaac Guerendo, Ben Bartch, Jaylen Moore. Now we move to the defensive side of the football. Evan Anderson, the big defensive tackle. This guy, he's a load. He's the biggest player on the 49ers defense. We're talking about a 330-pound load. He showed up and immediately started playing well against the run for the 49ers at a time when they really needed somebody to play well against the run. He's also shown off some nice pass rushing moves, but a couple plays this season from Evan Anderson have really stood out to me. This is a rookie out of Florida Atlantic who celebrated getting a guaranteed signing bonus for his practice squad contract of $280,000. He celebrated by doing a massive cannonball into his pool that displaced about half the water in the pool. You can check it out. It's on Instagram. Evan Anderson has taken that beef, that size. I call him a fire hydrant, right? Because he's loaded to ground, wide player. 49ers typically don't have this type of body. It's hard to find this type of body because normally these types of bodies aren't explosive enough for their wide 9. But Evan Anderson has shown some pass rushing moves, finesse, and explosiveness that has done the job for this team. But the one play that I first noticed him on, there was one where he absorbed a double team against New England when he first took over a role in week 4. But then against Tampa Bay, 49ers don't win that game if Evan Anderson doesn't deliver a massive, massive run stop that helps the 49ers, I think it was on second down, hold Tampa Bay to a game-tying field goal. Then the 49ers were able to get the ball back, march downfield, and Purdy set up the game-winning field goal attempt for Jake Moody. So it was Evan Anderson who showed up and delivered one of the unheralded plays that allowed the 49ers to win that game. Against Buffalo, they relied on Evan Anderson for 33 snaps, and despite the fact that the 49ers run defense wasn't good, it was not Evan Anderson's fault. The 49ers got killed to the perimeter. Their secondary was extremely poor against the run. Jair Brown really struggled in that game. The defensive ends weren't very good in that game. But the interior between Evan Anderson and Khalil Davis, who they traded for but right before the deadline with the Houston Texans, between them, that was 33 snaps for Anderson and 18 snaps for Davis. Really impressive stuff for the 49ers on the interior against the Bills. Now, I will say that it's going to be hard to evaluate the pass rushing for anybody in a snow game. And it's kind of funny because if you put on the tape, Evan Anderson twice took a snap and just fell straight on his face. And there's nothing against Evan Anderson. It was hilarious, though, watching it. And this happened to Bills pass rushers, too. But that snow was clumping in their cleats. And it was like being on an ice skating rink, which made it super impressive that somebody like James Cook could explode for the 65-yard touchdown in that game, because it was not easy to move on that turf, on that snow, I should say, because you're not even touching the turf at a certain point of that game. And for pass rushers especially, getting in your three-point stance and having to explode off the ball, that's, Evan Anderson, poor guy, 330 pounds of weight, tries to explode with a lot of force. All that force just slips. And so the whole body, that low center of gravity, in that case, is not helping keep him upright. And he falls straight to the ground. So pass rushing wise, you're not going to get much out of the Buffalo tape. But I think from a run defense perspective, Evan Anderson has been occupying blockers and doing a really, really good job for the 49ers. Then there's Khalil Davis, who is very, very explosive. 49ers are getting a good look at him. He's acclimating to the system now. He got 18 snaps. And this is not one of my 5 guys, by the way. I have one more after this, but I'm bunching him in with Evan Anderson. I think that Khalil Davis is somebody that the 49ers will consider re-signing to a futures contract when this season is over, so he can get a full offseason in with them. And he can, you watch some of the tape, and I showed you when they traded for him, there's some explosive tape in Houston. Really good get off, really good athleticism, good speed. The 49ers can really work with that at the defensive tackle position. A guy that can penetrate, beat some blocks, disrupt the run game. That is a good thing for the 49ers. Final guy to watch really closely, final prospect this month, D. Winters, the linebacker. There was a play early on against the Seattle Seahawks a couple weeks ago where Winters got caught up in coverage against DK Metcalf. For a linebacker, that doesn't seem like a very fair fight. But he competed and he blanketed DK about 20, 25 yards downfield. And good technique, he knocked the pass away. Before the 49ers lost Nick Bosa to injury against the Seahawks, they gave up only 3.3 yards per play. This defense had shown up. This defense was, they're very, very Bosa dependent. And you could take that as a criticism of Nick Sorensen too. Seems like his hands are tied when he doesn't have his top players in there. They're not able to manufacture pressure. He's a first-year defensive coordinator. Whatever, okay? But when Nick Bosa was in there for the 49ers defense, guys like Winters had the platform to make plays. The pass rush was there to the point where Geno Smith couldn't just sit back and wait for guys to get open. He had to hit guys on the first hitch. He had to hit guys, in the normal route progression before the play turned into an off schedule. And if D. Winters showed that he can cover DK Metcalf on the first leg of a route, 20, 25 yards downfield, that's an arrow up for D. Winters. Now, the arrow down for Winters has been his inability to consistently stay healthy. He has been in and out of the lineup for the 49ers, so they've had to go to Demetrius Flanagan-Foles. They've had to go deeper down that linebacker pecking order. But in this past game against the Buffalo Bills, Winters had more snaps than Devondre Campbell. 2 more snaps than Devondre Campbell. So he is becoming an increasingly used part of the rotation. The 49ers drafted Winters in the 6th round of the 2023 draft. So he's in his second year. Obviously favored him over Jalen Graham, who saw some time too for the 49ers in this past game. They've got Fred Warner as their linebacker 1. He's obviously the centerpiece. Dre Greenlaw coming back as the linebacker 2. We're going to see him at some point this December. That's a prospect to watch. But Greenlaw has an expiring contract. So are they going to re-sign Greenlaw? What's he going to show them over the course of this month when he returns from the Achilles? So where does Greenlaw fit into the picture? And where does Winters fit into the picture? That is one of the reasons why watching a lot of these December games is going to be so intriguing, because the 49ers are going to be building and crafting this entire operation for what it might look like coming out into 2025 with a chance still in 2024. They got a narrow window, but you can't think of it in terms of only that or in terms of the prospect watch. You have to think of it in terms of both. The key is the 49ers go out and compete every single week. Once you compete, then luck is eventually going to fall back on your side. It wasn't there for the 49ers this year, that's for sure. But watch these 5 prospects, subscribe to the channel, and I'll talk to you soon.